Testing, testing, testing. Testing, testing.
We would like to welcome you to our first Trenholm Talk series and glad that you're here. We have a dynamic speaker with us this morning who will be introduced by Ms. Tanisha Petaway.
Good morning. I'm Tanisha Petaway, one of the Strata Scholars here at Trenholm State, and I'll be introducing Dr. Bretia Gordon. Dr. Gordon is a health literacy specialist at Trenholm State Community College. She works on the Central Alabama Neighborhood Health Initiative grant through the city of Montgomery and is responsible for spearheading health literacy professional development activities and community health initiatives. Dr. Gordon has worked in public health, human services, and adult education in different capacities for the past 18 years. She's worked in nonprofit leadership and management, project management, adult education, clinical research, healthcare management, case management, and community education and engagement. Dr. Gordon holds degrees from Tuskegee University, Troy University, Nova Southeastern University, and UAB. She is married with 4 children and 2 fur babies, King and Polo. And I present to you Dr. Gordon.
Good morning. So, again, I'm Dr. Gordon, and I'll be coming to you all today to talk about stress management and work life balance. So, navigating stress and strategies for success. So, the objectives for the presentation today are to define stress and other related concepts and to identify healthy coping mechanisms and strategies to promote well being, mental health, and work life balance. So, first and foremost, what is stress? It is defined as the way human beings react both physically and mentally to changes, events, and situations in their lives. Stress is a fact of life. It cannot be avoided, but it can be managed. I need to repeat that. It cannot be avoided, but it can be managed. There is no way around stress. We're all going to experience stress in our lives, but all stress is not bad stress. School, relationships, jobs, health, and life are just some of the causes of stress. The most frequent reasons for stress are changes or change, a challenge, or a loss of control. So, some common stresses for college students: increased academic demands, financial responsibilities, changes in your social and personal life, adapting to new surroundings, atmosphere and people, and work life balance. Symptoms of distress. So distress and stress, distress is referred to actually as negative stress. So some of those symptoms are headaches or migraines, fatigue. You may have GI problems, which basically means stomach issues, high blood pressure, the inability to focus or concentrate. You may have heart problems or chest pain, the inability to sleep, or you may sleep too much. You can also have anxiety, sexual problems, irritability. You can overeat or not eat enough. And then some people may smoke, drink, or use drugs. So I'm going to play a quick video about how stress affects your body. So this particular presentation just gives you an idea of the ways that stress can affect your body. So let's just talk about a little data. I'm not going to talk about too much because then that can get a little confusing. So I'll just give you some brief statistics. So stress was ranked fourth by university clinicians as one of the primary mental health issues among college students. 61% of college students seek counseling for anxiety, depression, academic performance, family issues, and relationship problems. 8 out of 10 college students experience frequent bouts of stress. So on the left-hand side, it's basically saying that 82% of students deal with anxiety, 56% of them are significantly concerned with their ability to take care of their mental health. 68% of students experience social isolation and loneliness. 63% experience depression. 62% experience trouble concentrating. 60% experience difficulty coping with stress in a healthy way. 19% have had suicidal thoughts. 61% feel concerned about racial unrest in this country, and 63% have worse emotional health than before the COVID-19 pandemic. Effects of finance on stress in college students. So that's a completely different level of stress as well. A lot of students worry about how they're going to pay for school. So 33% of students have considered dropping out of college due to financial concerns. 74% of students were stressed about their personal finances in general, and 65% of students were optimistic about their financial future. So as it pertains to community college students tend to deal with different circumstances that can lead to stress. According to the Center of Community College Student Engagement, majority are part-time students. Many of them are employed and work at least 30 hours a week, and also their parents. And again, this is not all community college students, but there's a good majority of them that fall in this category. So just some ways to cope with stress. So some of the do's, first and foremost, change your attitude. Again, stress is not always a negative thing. It can also be a positive thing. It just depends on how you deal with it. Talk to a trusted person if you feel like you're under a lot of stress. Surround yourself with positive people. Incorporate healthy activities and coping mechanisms. Change your circumstances if you can. Some don'ts. Do not turn to alcohol or drugs because it's only going to make the situation worse. Don't turn to unhealthy habits. Don't use anger or violence or any negative behaviors. Don't stop going to class and doing your work. Don't compare yourself to other people. And last and foremost, run your own race. Everybody has a different path. Everybody has a different journey. So don't worry about what the next person is doing. Only focus on yourself. So some strategies for stress management. First and foremost, exercise. It releases endorphins that can make you feel better. Eat well. An unhealthy diet can only make stress worse. Meditate. Use breathing exercises to help lower stress. Aromatherapy, if that's your thing. Use essential oils like lavender, lemon, jasmine, or sage to improve your mood. Journal. Write your feelings in a notebook. Put it on paper and leave it there. Support system. If you have family and friends that are positive, surround yourself with them. Ask for help. If you can't manage it on your own, it's okay to see a professional. And last and foremost, get your rest. And I think with get your rest, a lot of people don't realize how much sleeping can actually help you. Too much sleeping may not be a good thing because that actually can be a sign of depression. And then, of course, you have people who may have health issues and things like that. But I would say for teachers, if you have students in your classes that may seem like they're always tired, they may sleep during class, maybe pull that student aside and find out what's going on with them. It can be a multitude of things. It doesn't mean that they're being lazy or something like that. It very well could be that they're just overwhelmed with other things going on in their life. So these are just some other tips that I didn't mention, like, of course, hobby, whatever your hobbies may be. Some people may like to bowl. Some people may like to golf. Some people may like to just play basketball. Whatever your hobby is, take up a hobby. Um, if you can go on a vacation or just go on a road trip, you can just go and ride out of town and come right back just to put yourself in a different scenery. Again, I just mentioned sleep. And then tackling the problem. You do have some people who tend to run from their issues. And so they may take on negative behaviors like drugs, alcohol. Some people use sex as well as a way to deal with whatever it is that they have going on. So the main thing is whatever your wherever your stress is coming from, try to focus on that and do something about it. So then we're going to go into work-life balance. So when we think about work-life balance, a lot of times people just think about work like the first bullet. It is referred to as a way to prioritize personal and professional activities. However, as it pertains to college students, you still also have work-life balance. So even let's say you don't have a job, you're still having to learn how to balance your personal life and other personal responsibilities in school. And then you may have students who have work, they still have a personal life and school. So you're still basically having to juggle multiple activities. About half of all full time college students have jobs, and 80% have part time jobs. Poor work life balance can lead to stress, lower productivity, lower job and school satisfaction, greater levels of burnout, fatigue, and poor health. Increasing time at work or school can conflict with obligations outside of work and school. How many people here have issues with work life balance? Am I the only one? You think your life is just work? So that's a work life balance issue, right? If it's you like it, well, that's a good thing. But work life balance, a lot of people deal with that, right? Especially as we talk about college students, because traditional students they're not a thing of the past, but a lot of students now are non-traditional students, meaning that they have multiple other responsibilities outside of just dealing with school. They're working, they have families, okay, they have other responsibilities on top of still having to try to go to school. So I commend anyone who's dealing with any of those things and then decide that they want to further their education. So these are just some brief videos. One is going to show you just like a cartoon about a person who basically just has a very poor work-life balance. And then I'm going to show you the other one, which is about a minute long, of a person who has um, a good balance in their work life. Let me adjust the volume. So now I'm going to show you what it looks like to have a good work-life balance. So those were very different situations, right? Both men were married, had families. On the first video, it showed that there was no work. He did not have a work-life balance. His work pretty much took up a lot of his time. So while he was at work, he had a lot going on, and then he had then took it home. And even in the hospital with a sick child, he was still working. And so that's just an example of how work-life balance is important. Because as you see, the next gentleman, when he clocked out, he clocked out. And when he was at home, he was at home. Now he might have still been thinking about work, but he basically knew that he needed to try to be focused on where he was at the time. And so that's ideal. Now that's not saying that that's always realistic, because we know even with work and school that a lot of times things tend to interlap, right? It's sometimes it's just no way around it, especially during COVID. I know for me it was no way around it, especially working from home and things like that. um, but again, that's just an example. Oh, let me cut that off. Okay, so some work-life balance and techniques. First and foremost, get organized. It's very important to get organized. Manage your time wisely, set daily and weekly goals, and you need to prioritize. So with prioritize, I always advise people, because a lot of times people ask me personally, Bretia, how do you manage all of the things that you deal with? And so what I tell them is, first and foremost, you have to multitask. I know everyone's not good at that. That's a skill. And sometimes you have to really try to work on and develop that skill. But to have a good work life balance, you really do need to learn how to multitask. But prioritize whatever is most important at that time. That's what you need to focus on at that time. If you put your priority off, then you kind of gonna throw yourself off, and then you're gonna try to rush and get it done. So you have to prioritize. Communicate effectively. So a lot of times we communicate, but does that mean it's effective? No. We feel like, oh, well, for instance, I have a son who's in college. And so I have to kind of guide him along, like, this is what you need to ask your teacher. He might call me and say, Mom, I had an issue in class, or this, that, and the other. And so I tell him, you need to go back and you need to ask your teacher specific questions. If you feel like you can't get the answers, maybe you need to talk to an advisor. But I try to guide him along the process, because he's still learning how to communicate as a college student, right? Because sometimes we depend on our parents and things like that. But when you're in college, whether it's community college, whether it's 4-year college, it doesn't matter. You still have to learn how to communicate effectively. Ask not, have not. That's when it comes to school. That's when it comes to work. That's even when it comes to your personal life. Some people don't have a support system, and that's very unfortunate. In those cases, I would just always advise people to really, like, talk to your boss, talk to your teacher, about your situation, because then they may be able to help you. However, for those of you who have a support system, tap into it. If you need more help, if you need someone to pick up your kids so you can take that class, that's going to help you graduate within a certain time, then you just need to ask. And a lot of times people don't always like to ask for help. but when you need help, you need to ask. Listen to your body. So I played the video about stress, just showing you some of the ways. There are actually a ton of ways in which stress affects our body. It didn't talk a lot about the brain, but it definitely can affect, it can change your brain. Okay, as a former psychology major, that's something I learned about how stress can change your brain and how your brain functions. How many people have known people to have nervous breakdowns? Okay, and so it happens. Everybody, there's different reasons, different circumstances, but most of the time it comes from being under a whole lot of stress. Some people may have a heart attack because they're stressed. Some people may have a stroke. It can manifest itself in different ways, but you have to listen to your body. If you feel like you need to take a break or you just need to step away, sometimes that's just what you need to do because your health is more important. Take 5 and breathe. Sometimes you just need to take 5 minutes and breathe. If you feel like you're overwhelmed in that moment and it's a lot going on, sometimes you just need to step away for your own sanity. And as students, that's those of us that are working primarily whatever, even at home, if you need to step away and breathe, that's what you need to do. Stay on top of your classwork for students. That's very important. I know it can be easier said than done, especially if you're taking multiple classes. But it's very important to stay on top of your classwork because what happens is something may go on in your life, and having those assignments turned in on time, making sure your grade is stable can kind of give you a little breathing room that you may need. So it's important to stay on top of it versus trying to catch up. It's way easier to stay on top of your classwork or just your work in general. Minimize your distractions. So you have to minimize distractions. They also can be hard, but again, being in college means there's certain sacrifices that you have to make. Um, and it's really no way around that, right? And so even as adults, um, those of us who again aren't in school but we're working, you still have distractions at work. Be it coworkers, be it other things going on in your life. And it can be very difficult sometimes to quiet that noise in your head down so you can focus on what you need to do. If my supervisor says, "Hey, Dr. Gordon, I need this report by 3," whatever I have going on outside of Trenholm, I have to quiet that down so I can get my report done. So it's the same way if you're a college student. Take time for self-care. That's highly important. Like that's the new thing now. Everybody's talking about self-care. But it's highly important. Self-care can be a multitude of things, whether it's nutrition, whether it's exercise, whatever. It can just be going to the nail shop, ladies. Okay, going to get your pedicure, get your nails done, going to get your hair, whatever your form of self-care. I know people who started hiking, like they go to different hiking trails. People are just starting to branch out and just do different things. But find a healthy way to take care of yourself and take time for yourself. So lastly, these are just some quick tips for time management because that's highly important when you're trying to have a work-life balance, and also important when you're trying to minimize your stress. First and foremost, checklist once work is done. So what I like to do, especially when I have a lot going on like this month, I've had a lot of presentations just come up, right? So I tend to use my calendar. That's just something that helps me. We're in our phones all the time. So really use those tools that they put on your phone. Your calendar that helps you stay on top of things, whatever it is you need to do to help you prioritize and remember all of the responsibilities that you need to take care of. And then once you're done, you can check it off your list. Prioritize the urgent. If it's something that has kind of taken a priority, take care of that, and then you can get back on everything else that you're doing. Be on time. That's very important because you can miss things when you're not. Avoid distractions, which we just talked about that. Schedule accordingly. Sometimes we can take on too much. Okay, it's not even mandatory. We just take on all these extra things, and we really just need to step away and say, I can't do it right now. It's a lot of things that I want to do, but right now I just can't do it. But next year I can probably do it. In a few months I might be able to do it. But I know right now I have other priorities that I need to focus on. So you have to, you know your life. Each of us have our own life. You know your life, and you need to schedule things accordingly. Remember the deadlines. That's very important. But that goes back into the calendar or whatever it is you use. Take breaks. It's okay to take breaks, to just breathe and give your mind a break. Never panic. Sometimes when we panic, we can do things, right? Say things, behave in a way in which we regret. So don't panic. And sometimes it can also lead to anxiety. I know a lot of people who deal with anxiety and they panic because they have all these things they need to do, and they start just getting really nervous, and you can make yourself sick from panic. Give your best, do your best, and leave it to the rest. Note down the work. So take notes. I am a sticky pad person. I have them everywhere because they help me. If it's something I know when I come back tomorrow, I need to prioritize. I'm gonna put it on my board, my whiteboard. I'm gonna put a sticky note on my desk, on my computer, so I know as soon as I walk in, it's the first thing I'm gonna look at. So note down the work, and that way it helps you stay on task. And that'll be it for me today. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Thank you.
And I know we can all benefit from this wonderful information. I know I can. And on behalf, I have a certificate for you. Certificate of appreciation presented to Dr. Bretia Gordon. And it says, in recognition of her outstanding contribution and exemplary presentation on navigating stress and strategies for success for the Trenholm Talk series. We extend our heartfelt gratitude for her exceptional presentation and its positive impact on our students and all of us. And this is signed by Dr. Mays. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Would anyone like to say anything? Any comments, suggestions, any topics you want her to talk about later? Okay. Well, that's the end of our program. We do have pizza and snacks in the little, I guess, room. Thank you for coming. And tell others about it. We're having something every month on Trenholm Talk Tuesday. Thank you.